Audio check. Audio check. Audio check. Okay. Alright, that seems okay. So, welcome. I'm starting a new tea tonight. I have run through my stock of lemon ginger, and my sister was good enough to get me a few boxes of tea over Christmas, and I am finally getting into the first one tonight. And it is chamomile. So I'm going to wait for that to cool a bit, and I'm interested to try it. Okay. Excuse me. So, good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Sunday Cinemas. I am your host, Lord Orfeo, and tonight will be, I suppose you could say, continuing a piece of interactive cinema we had screened a while ago. This will be Vegas Tales from FMV Interactive. So, we screened this a while ago. I want to say it was about a couple of months ago. And we ran into an issue where we got to the very end and we're supposed to make a selection of what is supposed to happen, or a significant choice that would sort of choose our ending, and the game glitched where we couldn't choose an ending, and so we basically watched the entire thing over 2 Sundays, and we never got to see any of the endings. So the game has since been patched, but we're just going to start the game anew. Since it's been so long, we're going to run through the entire thing and then choose our ending. Now, the developer of this game did reach out to me and give me a cheat code to allow us to see all of the endings. Unfortunately, it was a timed cheat code and expired March 1st. So, we're going to give the cheat code a try anyway after our first full run-through, just to see if it works. And if it does, then we will indeed watch all of the endings. Otherwise, we'll just give it a single run through, and we'll move on. So, I just noticed I made a bit of an error here. I appear to have left my phone outside. So, let me dash off and I will collect it. Okay, I am back. Thank you for your patience. Alright, so let's get into our usual announcements, and then we'll go from there. So, as I said earlier, my name is Lord Orfeo. I stream 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 6 o'clock in the evening to 9 o'clock at night, and Saturdays through Sundays from 8 o'clock at night to 11 o'clock at night. Two things to keep in mind about my stream times. One, all stream times are for the Eastern US time zone, so please do adjust accordingly. And two, the end times to each of my streams may be extended. It really just depends upon my personal energy level, the level of enthusiasm for whatever it is that I happen to be streaming that night, and the level of content left to be streamed. Also of importance, do know that I stream something different for each and every day of the week. It's typically indie games on Mondays, retro games on Tuesdays, a just chatting stream on Wednesdays, role-playing games on Thursdays, AAA games for Fridays, horror games on Saturdays, and full-motion video games on Sundays. If any of those stream themes are of interest to you, then I hope to see you again sometime during the week. And now, with our announcements out of the way, let us return to the stream of the day. Again, we are here for Sunday Cinemas, a stream night dedicated to interactive cinema. For those who are unaware, full-motion video games utilize real actors and real sets to provide a true interactive movie viewing experience. So if you're up for an interactive movie night, grab yourself a snack and a soft drink, because the show is about to begin. Tonight is Vegas Tales from FMV Interactive. A wealthy resort owner is dying and needs us to help him decide who should inherit his estate. We'll be interviewing some over-the-top characters and helping decide which of them most deserves to become extremely wealthy. But we must be careful, as there may be more to some than meets the eye. Tonight we'll likely be one-shotting the entire tale. One more thing I'll add. I have since added webcam to all of my streams. However, the Xbox One is not yet included in that, which is why you don't see me right now, because I do not have a webcam for the Xbox One yet. That is a future stream goal. So, let me don my headset, and we will dive into the game. Oh dear. Oh, here we go. Good. New game. Yes. So I pressed A for new game.
Thank you for
there you
meeting
go.
with me.
Guess
If
it
this
took
is
a while.
your first visit to the Bellflower Casino Resort, I hope you're finding it a pleasant one. I've owned this place for over 30 years. Running the Bellflower has been my life's work. A life which is almost over. I have terminal cancer, and I've been fighting it for years, but my time is coming to an end. I've already come to terms with my condition, but it leaves me with a problem. I never found time to start a family, and I don't have any close friends. This hotel is all I have to leave to this world. It's my legacy, but I have no one to carry on that legacy once I'm gone. I need you to help me decide on the best person to inherit the Bellflower. I've made a list of 4 candidates, each of whom has a strong connection to this hotel. Unfortunately, I don't know any of them very well. I've invited them all here for the weekend under the guise that you want to do an interview with them for a book that you're writing about the hotel. Now, they're being paid a healthy stipend for their time, so you'll likely find them willing to answer any questions you may have. I want you to learn everything you can about them and report back to me if you discover anything relevant. Their names are Ashley, Mallory, Sarah, and the last one is a couple of newlyweds named Todd and Becca.
Okay. Good. Wanted to make sure you could still hear me. For some reason, I couldn't hear anything when the game launched. I had to unplug my headset and plug it back in. Good thing there are subtitles. All right. So, as Mr. Davenport has said, he is the owner of a resort, and unfortunately he is passing away soon. He has no heirs, and so he wants to leave his resort to one of 4 people that he knows at the hotel, and he wants us to interview them under the guise of a documentary about the hotel. However, one of them will be lucky enough to inherit the estate, and with it, a lot of money. And it is up to us to help him decide. Ah, Jamera's here. Hello, Jamera. Redoing would also be an acceptable term. Took a while. Yes, yes. You mean redoing the full screening? Yeah. And yes, the loading time did take a while. But we have, let's see, Ashley, Mallory, Sarah Goodley, and the newlyweds Becca and Todd. Alright, now from what I remember, there is a lot of dry humor involved in this, which I am a fan of, but I don't really encounter it that often, at least not in the abundance I have seen it before, as I have in this piece of interactive cinema. So, if you are a fan of dry humor, you might be a fan of Vegas Tales. Alright, let's get him to tell us about Ashley. From what I remember, Ashley was my favorite from last time.
Ashley is a magician. She's been holding her magic show here at the Bellflower since we added a theater during our last renovation. She's been here longer than any employee, and she's as financially tied to this place as anybody, aside from myself. She's a private person, so I don't know much about her personal life.
Okay. Let us begin the sit-down interview with Ashley. Okay. The Bellflower Hotel.
I've been performing my magic act here since the last time it was renovated. Huh. Never heard of the place before that. I like it here. I like Mr. Davenport, too. He's very hands-off. I appreciate the fact that he doesn't try to give me input about my show.
All right. Tell me about yourself. And how are you doing tonight, Jamera?
I'm Ashley. I live here in Las Vegas. I spend most of my time practicing magic, and I am single. What else do you want to know?
Doing good? That's good. Oh, the chamomile tea is nice. Tonight is our second stream with upgraded internet. Feels good. And I am doing well as well. I got some decent sleep. Had a nice nap in the afternoon. Getting to try a new tea. And I have planned out content for quite some time. So, all good things. Alright, let's ask her about Mr. Davenport.
I haven't really talked to him that much. We talked a little bit when this place was being renovated. My magic act was becoming popular, and I was looking for a place to take up residency, and he was looking for an act to host in his arena. It worked out great. We've really only spoken a few times since then, usually about business. I guess you could say he's one of my best friends.
Because she doesn't like people. Best friends?
I don't like interacting with people unless there's a purpose. I would say I'm a people person, but I grow weary of them quickly if they overstay their welcome or talk. I prefer quiet types who show who they are by their actions. You know, a lot of people will have shallow, fake friends who will tell you all about their day, but they'll never lift a finger if you need to move or get rid of a body. I really don't like people like that.
Get rid of a body?
I've never had to.
I'm sure that's just an expression.
But if I did, I wouldn't be stupid about it. You know, everybody just tries to bury the body or throw it in a river with something heavy on it, trying to keep the cops from finding it. The cops are gonna find the body. But if I was going to get rid of the body, I would throw it in the river with a bungee cord harness attached to it, and then I wouldn't attach the other end to anything. So when the cops found the body, as they're going to, they wouldn't assume it was murder. They would just assume it was someone stupid who deserved to die. I mean, people win Darwin Awards every day. Why not take advantage of it?
That's clever. I like that. That is very clever. Ah, Ratika's here. Hello, Ratika. How are you doing tonight? I saw you in playing some Elden Ring. I popped in for a bit, but I wasn't sure how late I wanted to stay. Just because I intend to play Elden Ring eventually. And I've been sort of bouncing around to different people's Elden Ring streams. And I'm like, am I spoiling this for myself by sitting through too much? Like, it's cool to see the world and the characters, but at the same time, it's like the boss encounters and the encounters with other enemies, which I would assume are bosses, but I guess they're not bosses, because they have like no cinematic intro, is what I've been told. They still look pretty cool, and I don't really want to learn the strategies to take them down. Like, I want that to just, yeah, don't watch Elden streams, just go in blind. Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Oh, you're drunk? Ah, a slip, eh? I know you're trying to avoid that this year. Let's ask her about the Darwin Awards. We're gonna stay on this train of thought for a bit.
You've never heard of the Darwin Awards? They're my favorite. They're named for Charles Darwin, based around his survival of the fittest and genetics and stuff. So, whenever someone dies doing something that is so stupid, they do the human race a favor by draining themselves out of the gene pool, they get a Darwin Award. I used to love watching them on the internet, but now really it's just fails. They aren't legitimate Darwin Awards. So I watch a lot of roller coaster disasters instead. They're great too.
Oh, there's a little bit of something wrong with her. I like that. Let's see, Ratika says... Let's see. Don't watch Elden streams, right? Just go in blind. Okay, yeah. And it is what it is. I kind of broke my promise. But I don't want to feel like a dog that has to obey things. I understand, Ratika. I understand. Do what you think is best for you. And I hope all goes well and works out well in the end. In both Elden Ring and life. Let's ask her about... we'll dive into her personal life a little bit. Let's ask her about being single.
I'm not great at dating. It's probably because I really don't enjoy getting to know people. That's why I think that dinner and a movie is the perfect first date. You have just enough time to exchange facts about each other, and then the food comes, and you can't talk because your mouth is full. Then you go sit in a dark movie theater, where talking is frowned on, and you watch a movie. It's great. Especially if you're with one of those people who insists on talking all the time. I'm great at breakups, though. Yeah, not very good at dating. I've tried dating apps, but I haven't found any that I really like.
I do like her. Great at breakups? Ritika says, I know drinking isn't the best, but it helps a little bit. We must just make sure that we do not abuse it. Everything in its measure. Ritika asks, is this woman me? I think this woman is parts of us all.
The problem most people make when they're breaking up with someone is that they try to be too nice. And that's very selfish. Not the good kind of selfishness either. When you're too nice with someone and you're breaking up with them, it makes them sad. It makes them wish that you weren't leaving. It makes them think that maybe they should stay with you. When you're breaking up with someone, it is the one time of your life that you should be a complete asshole, so that they actually feel relieved. They feel like a burden has been lifted. Yeah, you should always be an asshole when you're breaking up with someone. That's why I'm very good at it.
Good selfishness.
Everyone talks about selfishness like it's some sort of sin. Selfishness is necessary. Everyone wants good-paying jobs. Want them to be in our country and not another country. That's selfish. Everyone wants those good-paying jobs to be in our city, not another city. That's selfish. I want those good-paying jobs to be mine, not someone else's. That's selfish. Selfishness is necessary for us to survive.
Let's ask her about an insistence on talking.
There are people who talk all the time, even when they have nothing to say. If you have nothing to say besides hello or hi, why talk? I really don't enjoy misguided politeness.
Misguided politeness?
It's like when someone tries to do something nice, but it has the opposite effect. Like you're walking towards a door, and you're too far away, but someone decides to hold it open for you anyway. So then you have to rush to get through the door so they don't awkwardly stand there holding it. Do you know what's easier than rushing through a parking lot to get through a door? Opening it yourself when you're there.
True. Alright, dating apps? Let's finish this train of thought.
I don't particularly like any of the dating apps out there right now. They're all designed to let you chat with the person before you meet them. If you chat with the person before you meet them, then you find out how horrible they are and you don't want to meet them. Then you don't even get the social rewards of having gone on a date. You know what I want? I want a dating app where you don't ever have to go on a date. Where when you match with a likely candidate, the app takes the photos that you have each submitted and places them in a likely dating scenario. Then it returns the photo to you. You can put that photo on your social media platforms, and it looks like you've been on a date. And you've never had to go on a date. Everybody wins.
That's interesting. You could argue that dating through a social app is just like dating. You get to talk to somebody, you get to know them, you don't get to engage in an activity, but I mean, if it's purely online, you could kind of say that you are. It's just like a lunch date. It's just, you're not together. Yep. Alright, let's ask about her magic.
Oh, it's understandable if you didn't know that I had my own magic act. I'm not on any of the posters. I used to be. But I learned early on that audiences expect a magician to be male. So I hired a male presenting actor as the magician. I started working as the assistant. But ticket sales, foomp, shot way up.
Assistant?
I'm not mad about it. My act has actually gotten a lot easier since I started working as an assistant and not the magician. I'll let you in on a little secret. The assistants are actually the ones who perform all the tricks in a magic act. The magician really is just there so that people have something to keep their eyes on. They're gonna watch him, see if they can figure out the trick, see if he's doing anything sneaky. Everyone really just ignores the girls in the shiny outfits. But we're the ones making the tricks work. Now, magic is all about misdirection. The magician is the biggest misdirection of all.
Magician.
Oh, we promote it like it's his show, but he's essentially worthless. He doesn't do much of anything. I've actually replaced the actor that's played the magician 3 times. Audiences never noticed. They're fine as long as there's someone on stage who looks like they expect a magician to look. Usually with a goatee. For some reason, a goatee is mandatory.
Practicing magic.
When you're part of a magic show, you spend countless hours practicing. We only perform 4 nights a week, so it would seem like it's an easy schedule, but we spend maybe another 30 hours practicing. More if you're bringing someone new into the show. It's a lot.
That sounds like a lot. So they put in over 40-hour work weeks. or maybe about 40 hours, but like 3/4 of that is just practicing. That's pretty intense. All right, misdirection.
You can get away with anything as long as someone's attention is focused on something else. That's the key to all of magic, half of life. Everyone knows it, nobody cares. Back when I really was an assistant, I worked for a magician, the great Zambini. He based his signature trick on this very thing. See, we were part of a traveling carnival, and our stage was outdoors. At the beginning of the night, the back of the stage, a Zamboni was parked. It was the Zamboni. And he would tell the audience that at some point during the evening, he was going to make the Zamboni disappear and no one would notice. So about halfway through the evening, we would have this assistant come out that the audience had not yet seen. Her name was Kelly. She was particularly alluring. And the other assistants and I would help her up on top of a platform, and we would begin tying her up with scarves. We'd really take our time about it, make it very erotic, and Kelly would wiggle and pout and make these cute little squeaky gerbil noises. While this was happening, Zambini would pull out his keys and drive the Zamboni off stage. And then he'd run back. We would make Kelly disappear in a fairly standard trick, and when it was done, Zambini would be standing where the Zamboni was with his arms outstretched, like he had just accomplished the most amazing feat in the world. And the audience loved it. They would clap like it was the best thing ever. It was grotesquely sexist, but it worked.
And what became of Kelly?
I haven't talked to her since we worked together. I'm sure she's doing fine. Supremely attractive people have it very easy. I'm sure she married rich or got kidnapped by human traffickers and sold on the black market. Either way, she's living in a big house with someone else paying all the bills. She's great.
Wow. Sounds hot. It does sound hot. Black market?
You can buy anything if you know where to look. I used to buy weed on the dark web before it was legal. I know there are people who buy fake IDs on the internet. Anything. You can find it.
Fake IDs?
Oh, I never had a fake ID. I grew up in a small town. It would have been pointless. Everybody knew everybody else anyway. And really, the only reason to have a fake ID is so that you can buy beer before you're old enough. And I don't drink. I did buy a lot of beer for other kids when I was in high school, though. I mean, sort of. I would buy the non-alcoholic beer, and then I would peel the labels off, and I printed my own, put something, generic and fancy sounding. And then, during study hall, I would just sell it at a drastic markup. Nobody ever called me out on it. I don't think they ever figured it out. I even remember hearing some of the kids brag about how much beer they were able to consume. Oh, they must have been very shocked when they attended their first college party.
Oh boy. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Oh, they are, Atika? Oh my. Let's ask her about that.
Oh, I know weed is legal now, but back before it was, everybody would smoke it anyway. It was just one of those crimes you never got in trouble for. Like speeding or practicing medicine without a license.
Practicing without a license? Like straight to mailbox? Wow. Oh, well, that's good to know.
The sale of human organs is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. And who do you think is taking those organs out of the people who lose them and putting them into the people who need them? I doubt it's someone practicing with a license. But I'm not doing it. I am not involved in that industry. I dabble in taxidermy, but I am not skilled enough to take a kidney out of someone and put it in someone else and have one of them live.
Before we head further down that trail, let's go back and ask about human traffickers.
They say human trafficking is a $150 billion a year industry, and I want to know how they know that. Are human traffickers reporting income tax, or are they just making up numbers?
It's a good question. Patika says this woman is very attractive. I agree. I love her personality. Traveling carnival. Let's go back to that.
When you're starting out in this industry, you will take anything you can get. It was rough. I was on the road for 6 months. Before that, I was an assistant to a comedy magician. That was even worse. I'd still take that over any normal job. Oh, comedy magicians. Awful. None of it's real magic. It's all just jokes. I don't have any jokes in my act. Well, I have one, but I don't do it every night. I just save it for when I have a heckler.
I guess we'll pursue taxidermy and then come back to all the magic options that have opened for us.
Taxidermy is a hobby of mine. Whenever I find a dead animal, I take it home and I stuff it. And then I save them, and when I have enough of them collected, I take them to dying children in the children's hospital. Because children love stuffed animals.
Oh boy. Dying children.
I like to visit kids in the cancer ward. Yeah, I ask them to draw me a picture, and then I trade them for one of the stuffed animals. It makes them feel better to barter. No one wants to be pitied, just given stuff. Even kids dying of cancer. I save all the pictures they give me. They say that a piece of art at least doubles in value once the artist dies, and I'm sure their parents will pay top dollar in about a decade.
Wow. Barter.
People don't barter enough these days. They don't haggle enough either. For instance, if someone has a poster for a lost pet and they offer a $100 reward, now in my experience, most people would just take the $100 and be happy. I try to haggle a little. I'll go for at least $150. I mean, no one posts their best offer on a flyer that's going on a telephone pole.
Interesting. Lost pet.
Yeah. I return lost pets to their owners as a side hustle. See, whenever I see a flyer that has a reward offered and a phone number, I take it down. And then I post the flyer with my phone number and I offer half the reward. Then someone else finds the pet, returns it to me. Then I do a nice little markup, call the original phone number, and reunite the pet with its parent for a profit. Does very well.
That is an interesting side hustle. I would never have thought to do something like that. That's very creative. Very creative. Her hobby.
think everyone should have hobbies. I like taxidermy and sensory deprivation. I made my own sensory deprivation tank once. I like to lie in it and be alone with my thought. It's very peaceful in there. I slept in it once. It's like sleeping in a coffin.
Ratika answers the question of the day. What is your favorite game genre? RPG. What is it about RPGs that you like, Ratika? I certainly like RPGs as well, but your answer may be different than mine.
Have you ever tried sleeping in a coffin? It's relaxing.
No, I have not.
It's cozy. There's extra layers of noise insulation in case you have loud neighbors. I slept in one back when I had college roommates.
Interesting. College.
Oh, I didn't actually go to college, but I lived in student housing after high school. See, you don't actually have to be a student to live there. I hated having roommates, but it's all I could afford. I bought my own place as soon as I could, but they kicked me out.
Why'd they kick you out?
I bought a burial plot. No one told me I wasn't allowed to move in until I was dead. That is a stupid rule. I should have sued them. But they agreed to give me my money back as long as I took my coffin and left.
Ratika says you loves the freedom of the role-playing game. I see, I see. BRB, you're gonna go for a cigarette? Okay. Most role-playing games certainly do have a lot of freedom attached to them. A lot of possibilities, especially in the open-world RPGs. Alright, let's ask her about high school.
High school is awful. I mean, you undergo years of traumatic experiences, and then when you finally escape, they invite you back for a reunion so that you can go spend more time with the same people who made your childhood traumatic. I don't understand it. Do survivors of other traumatic experiences have reunions? I mean, do people who lived through a plane crash get together and reminisce about the turbulence they experienced before it all went pear-shaped?
More good points. Plane crash.
I've never been in a plane crash. I fly all the time, but every flight has always been incident-free. I guess I'm just not very lucky.
Reunions.
I don't understand reunions or nostalgia in general. People cling to the past like it was the best part of their lives. But do you know what most people spent most of the past doing? Waiting for the future to come so their miserable lives would improve. Really makes no sense to me. I don't live in the past. I look to the future. I am so ready to be in the future. The second my contract is up, I am out of here. I am retiring to someplace very far away with very few people, and I am never going to think about Las Vegas again. Can't wait for that. Yeah, I want to see what the future holds, because I'm done here.
Aw. See, the one thing I would change about this game... Actually, there's two things, but I don't know if one of the two things is possible. One thing I would change is the startup time. So like at the beginning it said press A to start, and I pressed A and it felt like a full minute for the game to launch, which was very weird. I've never had that in a game before. Or if I have, there was something on screen to tell you that the game was loading, even if it just popped up and said loading. Yeah, I would either try to start the game faster if possible, or I would give some sort of indicator that the game isn't broken, because I wasn't sure about that. But beyond that, that's the thing I'm not sure that can be changed. But something else I would modify with this is we asked her, or rather, she revealed what her future plans are, and because of that, all the other questions were taken away, and so we're basically missing getting to experience her answers to the other questions. And I really like her personality. So it's like, you would actually have, if you want to hear everything she has to say, you would either have to play this multiple times, or you would have to use some sort of guide to tell you what question is the quote-unquote last question that you can ask before you can't ask her anything else. And just make sure to ask her that question after you've exhausted all other conversation routes. Because she was a really cool person to talk to. And I remember like asking her about real magic and asking her about the heckler and getting her story from that. And we weren't able to do this in this screening. But I remember at the original screening, we asked her about hecklers, and her little trick was she would make them disappear. And so she would invite them on stage, and they would get in a box, and then she would like lock up the box, and then she would take it backstage to like the emergency exit, and then she would open up the hatch, and the only place they could go was like outside of the emergency exit. And so they would walk outside, the door would close behind them, and they get locked out of the magic act, and they couldn't get back in. Like, that was funny, but we didn't get to hear about that this time. So that's something else I would alter if possible. Alright, let's tell Mr. Davenport Ashley's retiring. She wants nothing to do with Las Vegas.
That's surprising. I would have thought she'd be more emotionally invested in the Bellflower after running her magic act here for so long. I guess I must have misjudged her.
Alright, now we move on to Mallory. I remember each of these characters being funny in their own way. Like, Ashley has a lot of dry, dark humor, and I really like that about her. Mallory is funny in her own way, in that she's just incredibly unlucky. And, I feel like she's not like ha-ha funny, but it's sad, all the things that happened to her. Something else I would change, and I just noticed it, is when we went back to Mr. Davenport, it just says you should speak to someone else. So because we already left him to go speak to Ashley, when we go back, he doesn't tell us, or he doesn't have the opportunity or the option to tell us anything about any of the other guests. Not about Mallory, the Goodleys, or Becca and Todd. And originally you can ask him about everyone. So that kind of stinks. And I remember in our first screening we did that. We went to he told us about Ashley, then we toggled to Ashley, we interviewed her, then we toggled back, we had him tell us about Mallory, then we talked to Mallory, and we just kept bouncing back and forth. And I know the game was patched to avoid the player from running into the same issue that we did the last time we screened this, which was basically exhausting all options with all characters, and then we still couldn't go to Mr. Davenport and go through and pick someone for the ultimate ending. But it seems like when that update happened, it took away the ability to bounce back and forth between the characters. So I feel like there's something happened with the programming logic of this game, and I wish that it was a bit more relaxed in terms of, again, being able to exhaust all avenues for conversation with each of the actors and actresses. But I also like the fact that I could have bounced back and forth between the interviewees and Mr. Davenport. I like the fact that he could tell you about somebody, then you go interview him, then you come back, you tell him about that, you tell him ultimately what's going to happen with that person, their future, their intentions, and then have him tell you about the next guest, and then go to the next guest, and bounce back and forth that way. So now we don't get to hear what he has to say about anybody else, and that's, again, I feel like another loss. But we'll go ahead with Mallory. So tell us about the hotel.
I used to work at the Bellflower as a professional gambler. That's actually how I met Mr. Davenport. His security guards thought that I was cheating, actually, so they brought me in for hours and hours of questioning. Thankfully, they looked through the security footage and saw that I was not cheating. They could have just kicked me out, but Mr. Davenport was so kind, and he actually put me in a room for a full week to make up for the trouble that had been caused. This is the nicest hotel I've ever been in.
Oh. Professional gambler?
Oh, that was the wildest thing. I actually ended up here in Vegas by accident, but while I was here, I figured I might as well try gambling. It turned out I was extremely bad at it, though, and I actually caught the eye of a wealthy man who asked me to be a professional gambler for him. So he would give me money to play craps, and then he would bet on me losing. And we actually made a great team, and he made a ton of money off me. But the casinos started noticing what was happening, and they started kicking us out. Mr. Davenport was the only one who was really nice about it, though.
Oh. Who is this wealthy man?
Oh, he was a rich person just like you'd see in the movies. I mean, he had a 3-piece suit on with a jacket and a matching vest and everything. His car had a hood ornament on it, and he even had brown socks to match his brown shoes. I wouldn't know what to do with that kind of money. I think the first thing I might do would be to buy a monocle, though.
A monocle? Like Mr. Monopoly?
I've wanted a monocle my whole life. I've had really bad vision in one of my eyes since I was a little girl. This one time I found a pair of glasses that had a missing lens, but the lens it did have was very close to my vision needs. So I had that. It was perfect. Almost perfect. The lens was on the wrong side, so I did have to wear them upside down. Eventually, I tried to take the lens out and put it in the correct side, but when I did, the lens cracked and I couldn't wear them anymore.
Aw. In Vegas by accident.
Well, I didn't mean to end up here, but I was on a bus on my way to Denver, and the bus stopped here, and I got off to use the bathroom, but I guess I took too long because when I came back out, the bus was gone, and it also had my luggage on it, so when I got here, all I had was the clothes on my back. But I'm glad it happened because I had a really good time here.
What's going on in Denver?
Well, I wasn't in Denver proper, but I was about half an hour away at this ski resort very close by. Anyway, I worked at the ski resort first as a ticket salesperson, but then I studied and worked really hard to become a ski instructor. But sadly, like all my jobs, it didn't last. The first time I took a group out to go skiing, I was supposed to bring them to an intermediate level hill, but unfortunately I read the color coding wrong and I brought them to an advanced hill. There's a huge difference between an intermediate hill and an advanced hill. I, of course, lost my job.
One moment. Alright, I'm back. Let us continue. Tell me about yourself.
What is there to say? I guess I'm a little bit down on my luck right now, between jobs. I had 2 job interviews earlier this week, and I'm hoping to have more soon. I don't like to admit this usually, but it might be important for your book. I'm actually homeless currently. It might surprise you that I actually came from a fairly wealthy family. My dad was some sort of hotshot furniture salesman, and my mom was a cable TV installer. We actually owned our own house. It was double wide. But yeah, I guess I always thought I'd be a big success like my parents, and I guess it's just all right that they're not around anymore so that they don't have to see what my life has turned into. You know, I didn't exactly meet their high expectations.
Aww. Welcome back, Ritika. I stepped out a bit as well. We both come back about the same time. We're now interviewing candidate 2, Mallory, who seems to be very down on her luck. Parents not around?
Oh, I've been an orphan almost my entire life. Yeah, my parents died in a fishing accident when I was really little. The only living relative I have is my Uncle Albert, but we don't really talk at all. He's been in and out of prison my whole life.
In and out of prison?
My Uncle Albert? Oh, he goes back to prison all the time. He's actually serving a life sentence, but he keeps escaping. I don't know how he keeps getting out, but the guards catch him and put him right back in. Albert is from the dark side of my family. We didn't like to associate with them very much growing up.
Dark side of the family?
We were always a little bit ashamed to be related to Albert's side of the family, to be honest. I mean, I know that I'm not some great success or anything like that, but at least I'm trying to better myself. Albert's mom was a lawyer, and his dad was a member of Congress for over a decade. It's like they didn't even try to have honest jobs.
Interesting. Fishing accident.
My parents used to take me fishing on the southern coast of Alabama. I don't think we were supposed to be fishing at the spot they found, but there was never anybody around to tell us to leave, so we did it anyway. It was really nice, and almost like a real vacation. Anyway, we didn't have a real boat. We had just 3 of those floating pool chairs that we'd like paddle out and just sit there and fish. It was really relaxing. Anyway, one day my parents caught an undertow and the current pushed them out deep into the ocean. So luckily I managed to get to shore, but it took me a while to find anyone for help. The authorities searched and searched for them, but all they could find were their pool chairs, empty. It was really bad, but I was placed into the foster care system.
Aw, poor Mallory. Ritika says, I mean, lawyer and Congress stuff is well paying. That's true. Foster care.
I wasn't in the foster care system for very long. When I was 9, I was placed with a foster family, but unfortunately, my foster parents died the first night that I was with them. A burglar broke in and murdered them. My foster mom was able to call the police, but by the time they arrived, they were already dead. And the police couldn't find the burglar anywhere. The prosecutor on the case assumed that I had murdered my foster parents, and even accused me of killing my birth parents. So he got the judge to sign off that I was going to be tried as an adult instead of a child, even though I was only 9. Luckily, they did find the real killer, and it turns out he was just really good at hiding, and he was in a crawl space under the house. So, unfortunately, due to this legal loophole that in Alabama I was now considered legally an adult, so I was out of the foster care system and I had to find a job. So I worked in a coal mine. It wasn't the work I wanted to be doing, but it paid something. And then when I was 18, I moved out of Alabama.
Dang, that's harsh. That is harsh. Bad luck, very bad luck. Alright. Ask about moving out of Alabama.
I didn't have much money saved up, so I had to hop onto a train like they do in the movies. Only it wasn't exactly like how they do it in the movies because there were no big empty cars with those open sides that you could just hop right onto. The best I could find was a small platform that stuck out from the train a couple of inches. I was able to put my feet on that, and then there was a handle that I could cling to. I figured that I could just stay like that for an hour and then I'd be across state lines, but unfortunately, the train picked up a lot of speed and I was stuck clinging onto the train up until Detroit.
Oh boy. Detroit. What'd you do there?
Well, I hadn't intended on going to Detroit, but since I was there, I decided to make the most out of it. I got a job as the mascot at a children's restaurant. It was kind of a cheap ripoff of Chuck E. Cheese. And I had a costume that wasn't so much a cute mouse as a scary rat. But luckily, the kids didn't seem to mind too much, but I was only there for a little bit anyway. The first time I got my paycheck, I went to the bank and I was still in my rat costume. And unfortunately, 2 bank robbers came in, also in costume. So when the police showed up, they assumed that I was with them and arrested me along with them. I was able to sort things out at the police station and I got off, but my picture in costume was already in the newspaper, so my boss didn't like seeing his mascot on the front page of the newspaper for bank robbery, so I got fired.
Aw, poor Mallory. She has very bad luck. She does have very bad luck. Let's ask about all her jobs.
Oh, I've done it all. I've delivered pizzas, I had an ice cream truck, I worked in a pet shop, I even worked on a cruise ship. I've had some truly wonderful jobs, but sadly nothing ever worked out.
Pizza delivery.
I worked at a really fancy pizza place that had a big dining room and everything. It was great. Anyway, the owner, my boss, was trying to sell it, so the potential buyers were coming in to see it and to go over the books. The owner said that we had to look as busy as possible when they came in to make a good impression, so anytime there was extra space in any of the pizza ovens, we just started making cheese pizzas. I was given the cheese pizzas anytime I was making a delivery, and I was told that I needed to just throw them in the dumpster, but I felt really weird about doing that because the town had a lot of homeless people. So instead, I decided to do a good deed and pass them out to them instead. After the potential buyer had looked through the restaurant, he was being driven back by my boss to his hotel room, and on the way, I guess they saw about 20 homeless people with our very distinct pizza boxes. I don't know what he thought, but he didn't end up buying the place after all, and I lost my job.
Aw. All from trying to do a good deed. Bullcrap reason to fire someone? I agree. What about the pet shop? What happened there?
I got a job at a pet shop, but I only worked there a few weeks before I got fired, unfortunately. Before I worked there, I really didn't know anything about animals, so I did learn a lot on the job, thankfully. Anyway, my boss would have me open up, and then he'd come in a couple hours later, around noon. And one day, we got a hamster delivery, 2 hamsters, and my boss had left a note saying, put them in a fish tank. The thing is, my boss didn't specify it was supposed to be an empty fish tank, so I put them in a fish tank that had fish and water in it. It also had a lid on the top. Anyway, the hamsters almost drowned, but thankfully we had this machine that was pumping air into the bottom of the tank, so the little guys were really smart and they took turns breathing out of the air hose.
They must have done that all night to stay alive. Oh boy. What about the ice cream truck?
It was a dream of mine for a really long time to have my own ice cream truck. I love the idea of having my own business, being an entrepreneur, and selling wonderful sweet treats to people over jolly music. Anyway, it took a really long
nice.
time, but eventually I did buy my own ice cream truck. Well, it wasn't actually an ice cream truck, it was an El Camino, and it had 2 freezers full of ice cream in the back, so anytime I wanted to sell ice cream, I'd just have to park and get out and go around back. It was great, and I'd still be doing it if I hadn't lost my license.
Well, why'd you lose your license?
I wasn't just selling ice cream out of my El Camino, I was also living in it. The ice cream chests in the back were plugged into the cigarette lighter inverter, so the engine had to be running at all times so that the ice cream wouldn't melt. This made it really hard to sleep. Anyway, one night I had a few drinks and I was trying to sleep, and of course the engine was still running so that the ice cream wouldn't melt, and a policeman came over to see what was happening. I didn't know this, but you can actually get a DUI if you're drinking while your engine's on, even if you aren't moving, so I ended up being sent to prison.
Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. How was prison?
I actually got really lucky with my prison sentence. I was sentenced to 3 months in prison, but they let me out after 2. Also, I was sent in right before Christmas, which was great because on Christmas Day, they gave everybody a delicious cinnamon bun. It was the best cinnamon bun I've ever had. I guess sometimes Lady Luck is on my side.
It's a very positive outlook on a lot of negative circumstances. Cruise ship.
That was the most amazing job I've ever had. It was also the shortest. Unfortunately, the first time that we went out, we actually hit an iceberg and sank like the Titanic. Some of the lifeboats got destroyed, but most people were able to get on one. The rest of us had to survive by climbing onto the iceberg.
How'd that go?
After the ship sank, there were over 80 of us stranded on the iceberg, and we had no way to call for help, no food, no water. So out of desperation, we took off our clothes and we tried to form a sail out of them, hoping that we could ride the iceberg to shore.
I see.
The sail we made out of our clothes didn't end up working, and it didn't move the iceberg at all. Actually, after an hour, it just blew away in the wind anyway, so we were just left there half naked and freezing. Luckily, a cargo ship came upon us, and they were able to rescue us from the iceberg. But we didn't speak their language, and they didn't speak English, so we couldn't explain to them why we were all half naked on an iceberg. They dropped us off in Quebec after a very awkward trip.
At least they all survived. How was Quebec?
I don't know what happened to the other survivors. When we got to Quebec, we all just separated. Hitchhiking back to the United States from Canada was really unpleasant. Everyone only spoke French, and I was still half naked. Luckily, someone did stop, and they had a pickup truck, so they let me sit in the back, and they stopped 20 miles from the New York border, which was great because I only had about a 6-hour walk back to the States.
Oh boy. Walked 6 hours, half naked. Back to your home country. So you were hitchhiking along the way. Or did you try to
I
hitchhike?
know they say you shouldn't hitchhike because it's dangerous, but the thing is, I've had a lot of luck hitchhiking over the years. The first time that I hitchhiked, I was going from Detroit to Albuquerque, and these 3 really nice dudes in a hippie van picked me up. It turns out they were a traveling folk band, and they taught me how to drive so that I could drive down the highway while they were practicing in the back. It took a really long time to get to Albuquerque because they kept having to stop for shows, and we did have to camp in their van every night, but it was still great. You know, I've met my fair share of famous people over the year, but this was really cool because they were real musicians, and we got to get pretty close. Also, by the time we got to Albuquerque, I was so good at driving that I passed my driver's test the first time.
Very nice. That was some good news. What famous people did you meet?
I met Orville Redenbacher at the airport once. It was
The
awesome.
popcorn guy.
He was in line trying to get his luggage, and I thought, should I approach him or should I not? You know, I imagine a famous popcorn magnate like that is probably constantly having groups of people swarming him trying to get his autograph. But anyway, I decided to go for it. So I went up to him and I said, I love your popcorn commercials. And he was really flattered and turned out to be a super nice guy. He even signed my cast. Anyway, that was in 1997. I found out later that he had actually died in 1995, so it couldn't have been him, but it was a really nice old man, and it was still a really fond memory.
Interesting. Why were you wearing a cast?
I broke my arm at the zoo. You know those signs that warn you not to feed the animals? Well, you should really pay attention to those. I tripped over one, landed on the sidewalk, and broke my arm. It was okay, though, because I had an appointment at the hospital later that day anyway, so I just had my doctor fix my arm then.
Oh boy. What were you doing at the airport?
Oh, I wasn't at the airport to catch a flight. Sadly, I've been homeless a few times throughout my life, and one of the tricks that I picked up was that you can go to an airport and pretty easily find a place to sleep. I think they're used to having people who need to find a quiet spot because their flight is delayed or there's a long layover, so it doesn't look too weird if you find a spot and just sleep there. But there is a trick, and that's to not overstay your welcome. So after 7 or 8 hours, you gotta get out of there. Also, you should never go back to the same airport twice unless a few years have passed. You know, I found a few creative places to sleep over the years. You just gotta know the tricks.
Places to sleep.
A lot of homeless people will choose gas stations and fast food restaurants to sleep at overnight, but I think that's actually a really bad idea because they're out in the open and the employees are probably going to have to kick them out. So when I was homeless, I always made sure to find a very hidden spot. So for instance, I once worked at a fast food restaurant and I noticed that there was a ladder out back. So I climbed it and there was a beautiful roof that I could sleep in. Anyway, I slept there every night that I was working there, and just made sure that no one saw me go up and no one saw me come down. So I had my smartphone, thankfully, to set an alarm to make sure that I'd be down in time, and also get to work in time. It was working really well for a few months, but then eventually someone did see me go up on the roof. They figured out that I was sleeping there, and I did get fired, but, I can't really blame them.
Aww. Tell me more about being homeless.
I wasn't always homeless. Actually, when I was in Alabama, I had 3,000 square feet to myself. I felt like a wealthy land baron or something. But I didn't have a house on the land, but I did have a really nice tent at first. It was great. I lived there for a full year before I could save up for a house. Well, not a house. I actually bought an 8-foot by 10-foot shed that was fantastic. It was just as good as a house. Had a roof, 4 walls, a window, a door, everything I needed. I don't know why more people don't just live in sheds.
Shed.
That was the nicest place I ever lived. Unfortunately, 2 weeks after I bought that shed, it was swallowed in a sinkhole. So there was really nothing left for me in Alabama. I decided to chase my childhood dream and move to Albuquerque.
She saved up for a whole year. And the place only lasted her 2 weeks. Bad luck, how the F, right? Oh. What's in Albuquerque? Or what was in Albuquerque?
Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to move to a big city. You know, one of those places that musicians write songs about? A place like Albuquerque. When I finally moved to Albuquerque, it exceeded my expectations. All the glitz, all the glamour, it was incredible. And the best part was the people were really nice. It was great. I'd probably still be there today if it weren't for the puppy incident.
The puppy incident? She's like a bad luck charm in the flesh. Yes, she is. I feel bad for her.
A little boy had lost his dog, and the entire community banded together to try to find it. Every business had some sort of poster in the window asking for people to find the dog, and I actually came across the dog, but unfortunately it was already dead, so I buried it. And then I wanted to do that thing that they do in TV shows where you replace one dead animal with a new alive animal that looks the same. So I went to every pet store in town until I found a dog that looked like the dog that I had buried, that had died. I brought it to the little boy's family, and they seemed so happy. It was great, until about 2 weeks after that when I found out the truth. The little boy and his family weren't looking for a lost pet. Unfortunately, they were looking for a dog that had bitten the little boy. They wanted the dog to see if the dog had rabies. Since I didn't bring the correct dog back, they couldn't test the dog, and it turns out the dog that bit the little boy did have rabies. That's why he died. The story doesn't have a happy ending for the little boy, and I couldn't face the townspeople anymore, so I had to move out of Albuquerque.
Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, you're going to sleep, Ratika? Okay. Thanks for stopping in for a bit. Have a good sleep. I will see you again. Tell me of these job interviews. Well, no, tell me about your smartphone first.
I always thought that smartphones were such a waste of money, but honestly, once someone told me about the food delivery services and how much money you can make doing those, I had to get one. And I'm glad I did. It worked really well for a few days when I had my car, but sadly, all those miles really wore it out, and I had to bring it into the shop, and I just couldn't afford the repairs. So I ended up just getting a bus pass, and that was how I was making my food delivery runs. Didn't work quite as well. Actually, sometimes I would have to transfer to multiple buses, so it ended up taking like an hour to deliver something. Eventually, I just kind of stopped doing it. I wasn't making any money.
Job interviews.
My first job interview was for a job selling jewelry. I didn't have any experience, so they said they couldn't hire me. My second job interview was at an adult video store. They needed someone to clean up those video booths after customers used them. I also didn't have any experience with this, but I really wanted the job, so I lied and said that I'd been doing it for 15 years already in 3 different cities. I thought for sure they were going to hire me, but for some reason they didn't. I guess that was karma telling me that I shouldn't have lied.
Hospital.
Oh, I've been to the hospital a lot. I tend to get hurt pretty easily. You know, I've had so many x-rays and MRIs. I'm surprised I don't have superpowers.
X-rays.
I've broken a few bones over the years. I've been in all kinds of accidents. A hunting accident, a skydiving accident, normal stuff like that.
A hunting accident.
I broke my leg hunting. I was sitting in a tree with my friend and we had a few drinks and she told a really funny joke. Anyway, I was laughing so hard that I lost my balance and I actually fell out of the tree right on an 8-point buck. They still gave me credit for the kill.
What was a funny joke about?
A beer walks into a bar and says, "Give me a whiskey and a cola." The bartender asks, "Why the long pause?" The beer shrugs and says, "I don't know, I was born with them."
Oh, I get it. Long pause. Because it's a bear. That's funny. Skydiving accident.
When you see people parachuting on TV and in movies, it seems like they're being gently lowered onto the ground like a feather. But I am here to tell you that is not the case. Even with the parachute, you're actually falling really fast and impact can be really rough. I found that out the hard way. I was walking around and a skydiver landed right on top of me. Actually broke my arm in 2 places and gave me a concussion. I never saw the skydiver again, which is too bad because I'll never have a chance to thank them.
Thanking the skydiver? For what?
Well, if it weren't for them landing on me, I wouldn't have gotten a concussion, so I wouldn't have gone to the hospital, and they wouldn't have given me an MRI, so I never would have found my brain tumor. They say there's nothing they can do for me, but at least now I know I only have 3 or 4 months left to live, so I can start checking things off my bucket list.
Aw, poor Mallory. Mallory has an untreatable brain tumor. She's dying. She only has a year or 2 left. She said only a few months.
That poor woman never catches a break, does she? I don't suppose it would be logical to leave a hotel to someone who's not going to be alive much longer than I am.
Yeah, I guess by the time he would die, she'd probably die. Alright, we have the Goodleys, and we have Becca and Todd. Let's go with the Goodleys first. Tell us about the hotel.
We love this hotel. We come here every year on vacation.
We take a lot of family vacations together. The only thing better than seeing the world is seeing the world together.
This is my favorite vacation we take. I love coming here to Vegas.
That is true. It's all she talks about for months leading up to the trip.
I do get pretty excited about our vacation time.
Tell me about yourself.
I'm Alice
I'm Walter, and this is Sarah.
It's so nice to meet you.
We're from Utah.
Utah. Tell me about that.
We are very lucky to live there. Our neighborhood is just dandy. But then again, I guess everybody says that about their hometowns.
We have friendly neighbors, a brand new school, and the best darn volunteer fire department you could ask for.
Well, it's not perfect, though. Crime has been on the rise lately.
Oh, that's true. Last Halloween, 2 houses got toilet papered.
A bunch of us pitched in, and we got those houses cleaned up by noon. Still, it was kind of disappointing to know that something like that could happen only a few blocks away.
Cleaning up all that toilet paper was really fun, though.
That's our Sarah, always looking on the bright side of any situation.
Ask about the volunteer fire department.
Being on the volunteer fire department is considered a huge honor in our town.
There are too many volunteers every year, and they can only let in so many people, so it's very competitive.
Well, the exception is on Thanksgiving. During the parade, they make everyone in town an honorary member. It's a nice gesture, and everyone gets very excited about it.
We go all out for Thanksgiving.
We go all out for all holidays in general. You should visit on Independence Day. We have a top-notch fireworks show every year.
Oh, and don't forget about the Easter egg hunt. That's my favorite.
Easter egg hunt.
You'd think the hunt was just about the kids, but it's just as much fun for us grown-ups, too. The night before the hunt, all the adults get together and spend a few hours hiding the eggs. The next day, all the kids spend a few hours looking for them. It's like the adults get to play, too.
Sarah takes hiding Easter eggs very seriously. Some of the places she finds to hide them are downright diabolical.
Well, I remember what it was like hunting for eggs as a kid. The best feeling was when you'd find an egg in a hard-to-find spot. If someone doesn't hide them in places like that, then the kids won't get a chance to feel like that.
Sarah never does anything without giving it her best effort. You should hear her music lessons.
How are they going?
Sarah's learning to play the piano.
I'm not that good, but I'm trying really hard to get better.
Well, at the rate she's improving, though, she might be a famous musician by this time next year.
She's exaggerating. I wouldn't want to be famous anyway. Piano for me is just like a hobby, like your knitting or Daddy's gardening.
Tell me about Vegas.
A few years ago, we heard that Las Vegas had undergone some changes and was very family-friendly now. Once we heard that, we just had to come check it out.
And we were not disappointed. There's a lot more to do here than just gambling and attending wild rock concerts. There's an aquarium, a history museum, and gondola rides.
We even found a soup kitchen that lets us volunteer every time we come here.
We do participate in some of the wilder activities, too. Last year, we toured the Pinball Hall of Fame. I figured
I
we
wanna
are
go
in
there.
Vegas after all. We might as well get a little crazy while we're here.
Actually follow them on Twitter. Actually, they follow me on Twitter first, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I remember how that came about. It's been a long time. But I've always loved pinball. I always felt that... I mean, I love video games, but video games... I felt like pinball could never really be replicated in a video game form. Like, there could be some awesome video game pinball tables out there that can do things that real pinball machine tables can't. But the feeling of standing in front of a real pinball machine, of sort of whacking it so it doesn't tilt, but sometimes getting a ball stuck out of a hard-to-reach place, or the feeling of pulling back the knob and watching it strike the ball bearing and it bounce around the table, or the sounds the machine makes, or the lights as they go off, getting the feel of the ball as it rolls down one of the paddles and hitting it at just the right moment to launch it where you want. I feel like that can't really be replicated. perfectly in a video game. I feel like the only way you can really truly appreciate pinball is to play pinball on a real pinball table. And yeah, like if I were ever able to like come into a good chunk of change, and I ever wanted to sort of spruce up my place with video game machines, I wouldn't go for arcade machines. I'm satisfied with a PC and console video game experience. I would go for pinball tables, real pinball tables. So, if I ever get the chance to go to Vegas, I would definitely like to tour the Pinball Hall of Fame. Okay, let's go to... I would have liked to ask about that, of the Pinball Hall of Fame. Let's do gambling.
None of us gamble, but I don't understand why it has such a bad reputation.
I've never gambled before, but I do want to try it when I turn 21 next year.
I've tried it. Gambling isn't really for me, but it seems like an innocent enough pastime.
Can't say I've ever really gambled myself. Well, I have been to the dog track here in my city. That was fun. I didn't win anything, but it was still fun. And then there's your average game of poker that you might have with some friends or family. It's not bad. I liked it. The important thing is just not to get carried away. You have to know your limit. Oh, actually, I did gamble on a cruise ship once. That was pretty awesome. I only gambled once. I said to myself, I'm only going to spend $20 to go and gamble, and that's it. And so I walked up to a machine, and it was like a slots machine, and I didn't understand it. And the reason I picked it is because there was no one, around that slot machine. And I felt like a little self-conscious, I didn't want someone to see me, insert money into a slot machine and then it just, take all my money. And then I just, walk away and lose. But I still wanted that gambling experience. I wanted to try it at least once. So I sat down, and it actually, took my whole $20 bill. And I didn't mean to gamble the whole 20. I meant it to, go in the machine and it to last a few rounds. And I didn't understand the machine either. I didn't understand any of the symbols on it. But I put in the 20. I think I used up the entire 20. I hit random buttons. And it seemed like it was taking all the process stuff, and I didn't really understand what was going on. And then some crazy lights started flashing, and I actually won a $4,000 jackpot, which is pretty awesome. Was it 4 or was it 6? I actually think it was 6,000. I took a picture and a short video of the occasion. And yeah, that was pretty awesome. And yeah, that was a good time. That was a good time. Alright, let's ask about rock concerts.
We've never been to a rock concert. We really should go sometime, though.
Walter wasn't the biggest fan of rock music for the longest time, but it was Sarah that convinced him to give it a try.
All the rock music I heard growing up just seemed so edgy. I figured it wasn't for me.
Daddy just hadn't listened to the right bands.
That's true, because I wasn't the biggest fan of rock music either, when all I ever heard were wild groups like the Beatles and Billy Joel. If Sarah hadn't shown me that there were less rowdy bands out there, I'd probably still be missing out.
It is amazing how much Sarah's changed our lives.
Family vacations.
I take 2 weeks vacation from my dental practice each year so we can go on a family trip.
It's safe to say our Las Vegas trips are our favorite. This is our 3rd year in a row coming here.
Next year, I'll be old enough to go to the casino floor.
Sarah won't be 21 until next month.
Let's ask her why she doesn't want to be famous.
When people get famous, they move to a big city so they can make lots of money. Once they've made all that money, they move to the place they really want to live. I already live in the best place I can imagine, so why would I leave in the first place?
It's an interesting point. I guess we'll ask him about his dentistry career.
My father and grandfather were both dentists. All the men in my family were. Well, except for my brother Stephen. It's a family tradition.
Stephen is quite the rebel. He lives by his own rules.
He's a pediatrician in Salt Lake City. That's clear across the state from us.
He only comes to visit a few times a year, usually on holidays.
We do drive up to Salt Lake City once in a while. My friend Linda lives there too, so we get to visit her and Stephen in one trip.
Oh, we can ask her about Linda. Huh, okay.
Linda was my best friend back in high school. She was a bit of a troublemaker back then. To be honest, I was a bit of a rascal myself.
It's true. Alice and Linda were big mischief makers. Now, it may seem hard to believe now, but Alice was quite the prankster in her teenage years.
How come I've never heard about this before?
Well, I am not very proud of some of the things I did, so I don't talk about them much.
Can you tell me about one of them? Please.
Okay. Every April Fool's Day, Linda and I would send someone a pizza they didn't order as a prank. We paid cash, so it couldn't be traced back to us. And we'd also tip the driver so they wouldn't get stiffed in the gratuity.
I hope none of those people were trying to lose weight. That could knock someone off their diet.
We were young and reckless. We didn't think about the consequences back then.
I understand. I certainly got into my fair share of trouble when I was younger.
How so?
I've caused as much trouble as anyone. I was once suspended from school for smoking. Another time I got detention for a whole week for cutting class. I'm no angel.
Suspended.
I was walking to my next class when a kid I didn't know dropped a pack of cigarettes. I instinctively picked them up for him, but just as I did, a teacher happened to see me holding them and sent me to the principal's office. I couldn't say they weren't mine without telling on the other kids, so I got suspended.
It worked out for the best. The kid eventually felt bad that Sarah was taking the blame for him and told the principal what really happened. Then he later became Sarah's first boyfriend.
Sarah's first boyfriend.
It's not what it sounds like. A couple of girls at school were playing a prank on this kid, Tommy. He was really unpopular. They pretended he had a secret admirer and started passing him all these fake notes. They were just building up his hopes to crush them. Eventually, so many kids got in on the prank that nobody even knew where it started. I didn't want to see him get hurt, so I pretended I was the admirer and we dated for 2 months. He turned out to be a nice guy, but I was only 17 at the time and nowhere near ready for a boyfriend yet.
Cutting class.
I skipped study hall and snuck into the school gym. The principal caught me and I got a week's detention. It's really not a very interesting story.
Well, that's not the whole story, is it? You didn't mention why you went to the gym.
I was helping to set up a surprise party for the principal. His 25th anniversary at our school was coming up, so we had to do something for him. My study hall teacher knew and gave me permission to skip class, but I couldn't say that without ruining the surprise party. Still feel bad about lying to the principal.
Now, honey, lying is sometimes okay when it's to help the person you're lying to, like when we got you your glasses.
I know, Daddy, but it still feels wrong.
Why isn't she wearing the glasses?
Sarah used to babysit a little girl named Emily. She really looked up to Sarah. She always said she wanted to be just like her when she grew up.
One day, Emily had to get glasses, and she looked really cute, but she hated how they looked. She was super self-conscious about it, and she couldn't even stand to go to school anymore.
That's when Sarah came to me and asked if I could get her vision checked. She figured if she wore glasses too, then Emily wouldn't feel so bad about them anymore.
Daddy took me to get tested, but unfortunately my vision was 20/20.
I've never seen somebody so disappointed to have good vision. That's when I took Sarah to the mall to get her a pair of fake glasses.
Daddy's the best. I started wearing them whenever I was around Emily, and it worked like a charm. She started liking her own glasses almost immediately.
Aw. What does stiffed mean?
One thing you should never do is stiff a service worker. Tips are most of their
on the
income.
tip.
I'm ashamed to admit I am guilty of that myself. There was a time where I didn't know you were supposed to tip housekeepers when you stayed at a hotel. I'd been traveling for years before I realized it. I have no idea how many housekeepers I stiffed without realizing it.
A lot of people aren't sure when they're supposed to tip and when they aren't. It's a big problem.
Well, I don't use a smartphone myself, but I hear one of the big problems these days is people don't know they're supposed to tip app workers.
I thought everyone knew that one.
Ah, Jason Price. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing tonight? Jason says the guy who wrote this drives Uber part-time. That's cool. That's interesting. Or delivers food. I think it's delivery. Okay. That's a cool combination of jobs. Writing dialogue and also delivering food on the side. That's cool. I like that. Let's ask about Salt Lake City. So far, I've already gone through Mallory and Ashley. I'm just going down the list. And yeah, Salt Lake City.
Our trips to Salt Lake City are one of the few things we have trouble agreeing on. There's just so much to do, and everybody wants to do something different.
I like to go to the zoo, Sarah likes the planetarium, and Walter likes the Natural History Museum.
We started playing a board game right before our trip. The winner gets to pick where we go.
Sarah usually wins, but she's very gracious when she does. Last time she won, she picked the zoo to make Alice happy.
I won twice in a row.
Oh.
I would have felt selfish if I picked the planetarium both times. Plus, we hadn't gone to the zoo in forever. It wouldn't have been fair.
Isn't she just the best?
Ask about the soup kitchen here in Vegas.
We all love doing charity work, but to be honest, Alice and I don't find nearly as much time as we should. Sarah, on the other hand, always finds the time.
She volunteers every week at an assisted living facility, a food bank, and an animal shelter. I wish I had her youthful energy.
Thank you. They're just being modest. They both do plenty.
When I was younger, I did what I could. Now all I really do is make the occasional donation.
What about when we went to the beach last summer?
That's true. We spent the day cleaning the beach, and we had a contest among ourselves to see who could collect the most trash bags worth of litter.
Daddy won by a full bag.
It doesn't matter who fills the most bags. What matters is doing our part for the environment.
Every piece of litter you pick up off the beach is one less piece that'll make it into the ocean. That's what Daddy always says.
Jason says all three of those actors are known for playing Disney witches. The mom from Halloween Town 1, 2, and 3. The dad from a Halloween 3. And Sarah Once Upon a Time. I really need to see more Disney films. I haven't seen Disney in a very long time, not since I was a kid. I think... yeah. I've seen like Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid, Peter Pan, and Pinocchio. And I think that's about it. Like, those are some of the really great Disney classics. But there's a lot that I'm missing. Let's ask, why do they use smartphones?
We're a flip phone family.
I love flip phones. They're inexpensive, the battery lasts a full week, and they don't break when you drop them.
I like knowing Sarah has plenty of charge on her phone in case she needs a ride.
Well, you know, if I had a smartphone, I wouldn't have to bother you or Daddy when I need a ride. I could just use an app.
She's talking about those rideshare services. I just don't understand those. I mean, when I was growing up, we were taught never to talk to strangers on the internet and not to get into a car with a stranger. But now there's an app that literally lets you summon a stranger on the internet so you can get in their car. I don't understand why they're so popular.
I'm sure there's plenty of useful apps on those things, but everybody that I know that has a smartphone, they just text each other. I prefer having to call someone. It's more of a social interaction for me.
I used to rock a flip phone. It was nice. Let's see, let's do food bank.
Sarah used to only volunteer there once a month. She wanted to work more, but they didn't need the help.
True, but when Sarah wants something, she finds a way to make it happen.
While working there, I learned that a lot of the local homeless people were illiterate.
She talked them into letting her use their facility to hold a literacy class once a week.
It's every Friday night from 6 to 9. There wasn't a lot of attendance at first, but it's a pretty full class now. And I've made some good friends there too.
It's the one night a week that I let Sarah stay out until 9:30 now. I don't want her coming home that late, but she's really making a difference in people's lives.
Animal shelter.
I've been helping out at the shelter for over a year now. I love working with the animals.
We used to be part of the neighborhood pet patrol.
Whenever anyone in our town lost a pet, we'd post flyers and work the phones until that family had their missing member back.
I miss doing that.
We used to be part of the pet patrol, but it's handled online now. I hear it's very efficient, but we don't have the internet in our house, so we're not part of it anymore.
Don't use the internet.
I know people who have internet in their homes, and it does seem pretty useful, but there is a lot of bad stuff online.
I've been online, and there's a lot of good stuff on there too.
I'm sure it has its uses. It's just too easy to stumble across unpleasant language or other bad things. I just don't want it in my home.
Walter's dental practice does have its own website. People can book appointments online.
My secretary Janet runs the site for me. We have internet at the office, and she is great at using it. She spends some of her downtime on a website called the TikTok.
Oh, I've never heard of that one. What is it for?
Honestly, I have no idea. Janet has showed it to me multiple times, and I just can't wrap my head around it.
The TikTok. Secretary.
I've known Janet for years. She's in my book club.
I play golf with her husband, Frank. They're good people.
Frank and Janet invited us up to their fishing cabin this weekend, but we had to turn them down.
We didn't want to be rude by declining, but fishing really isn't our cup of tea.
I just don't see how snatching another life form from their home could be fun. What did those poor fishies ever do to us?
Oh. Jason says the parents have 20 million plus TikTok followers. Really? That's pretty insane. 20 million plus. Wow. Let's do gardening.
I like to make sure my family's eating at least some natural organic food.
Everything is so processed these days, and you can really taste the difference when you eat fresh vegetables straight from the garden.
Daddy works really hard on his garden.
I don't consider it work. I enjoy it. Plus, it gives me a chance to spend time outside.
Adults are weird. They can do anything they want, but if they want to, I don't know, play in the yard, they won't do it unless they find an excuse.
I love Sarah's outlook on life.
Knitting.
I do crocheting and knitting. I make clothes and blankets that I donate to local homeless shelters.
We used to just donate money, but there are just too many people in need. There's never enough money to go around, and winters get very cold in Utah.
And since we're able to buy fabric in bulk, we're able to donate 5 or 6 times as many supplies as we could otherwise.
The hats she makes are really nice too. They're so much more comfortable than anything you can buy at a store.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
Assisted living facility.
I love volunteering there.
Some of Sarah's best friends are residents there.
She's talking about Harold and Eleanor. I've learned so much from them.
They love having her there, too. They tell me all the time.
Walter and I thought we did our fair share of volunteering, but Sarah puts us to shame.
It really shouldn't count as work if it's fun to do.
Aww. Tell me about Harold.
Harold is the friendliest person you'll ever meet. He can go on for hours about the past.
He used to own the hardware store in town when I was a kid. They had a toy section that was only a few feet wide, but it felt like a full toy store to us kids.
You know, the way you're going on about the past makes you sound a little like Harold.
Well, I don't think I'm quite the storyteller Harold is. He really likes to go into detail.
That's true. He once told me a story about toilet paper that lasted for 20 minutes. It was a good story.
We've all heard that one. Harold likes to go on and on about how toilet paper rolls have gotten smaller and smaller over the years. So now you have to buy a 12-pack of toilet paper just to get the same amount of toilet paper that used to come in a 4-pack.
I mean, he has a point. I mean, if they still made them like they used to, my grocery trips would be a lot easier.
Eleanor.
Eleanor was a phone operator for most of her life. From what she says, there was a time when operators had to manually make phone calls go through. I can't even wrap my head around that.
I've known Eleanor for years. She organized the town's first bake sale, and she always had the best Christmas decorations every year when I was growing up.
Our town gets very into Christmas lights. Walking around and looking at all the decorated houses, it's a tradition for us.
I prefer driving around. It's a lot warmer.
Can't disagree with that. Sarah and I don't like the cold weather as much as Walter does.
Oh, I've always loved the winter. Playing outside in the snow is one of my favorite things growing up. I've made more than my fair share of snowmen.
I'm more of a summer girl.
Me too.
First bake sale.
When I was little, a tornado hit our town. 2 families lost their homes.
Oh my gosh.
Language, honey.
Aw.
Sorry, Daddy.
Eleanor hosted a bake sale to raise money for those families.
The bake sale turned into an annual event. They raise money for a new cause every year.
It's a really big deal. Everyone in town goes.
Alice actually runs the bake sale now. She took over for Eleanor when she retired.
Summer girl.
Walter likes the winter, but you will not catch me outside if there's snow on the ground.
We've never helped Daddy shovel snow once. We just stay inside with the heat cranked up.
Believe me, they more than make up for it in the summertime. I can't remember the last time I watered the lawn.
We do love finding excuses to work outside during the summer.
I'm starting a charity car wash. I already have a bunch of other girls signed up. We're starting on Memorial Day.
I love the car wash idea. There are always plenty of worthy charities that need the money.
Plus, it's a lot of fun. It's like getting to go to a water park for free.
It's a good attitude to have.
I love water parks. One of my favorite things about living in Utah is that we have so many of them.
I'm a bit of a water slide enthusiast myself.
I'm not really into the water slides. My favorite part is the lazy river.
I
Me
think
too.
Sarah's favorite part is all the attention she gets from boys when she gets to wear her bathing suit.
That's nice too, but I've always loved water parks. My parents used to take me all the time when I was growing up.
My favorite ride is the one where you have to cross a bunch of lily pads while holding on to the rope.
Walter always makes it across, though. I mean, that defeats the purpose. You're supposed to fall in. What's the point of going to a water park if you're not going to get wet?
I like the challenge. It's hard to get across. Plus, my feet get wet.
I don't think he gets it.
I like that part. It's the challenge. It's the challenge of making it across and not falling in. Sarah's parents.
My mom and dad live just a few blocks away from us, so I get to see them all the time.
Oh, did you think Sarah was our daughter? We get that a lot.
I just don't understand why so many people think we're related. I don't see the resemblance.
Yeah, Sarah and I aren't related, but we are married to the same daddy.
We met Sarah when she was 18 and fell in love right away. She became my second wife 6 months later.
Well, I could never live up to his first wife, though. Alice is amazing.
Oh, Sarah's just being modest. She is an incredible wife.
She's a crackerjack in the bedroom as well.
That's just because I had such a great teacher.
Oh, well, Sarah's the real teacher. Did you know that you could use your feet in the bedroom? We had never heard of such a thing, but Sarah showed us, and now, by golly, Walter can't get enough of it.
And don't forget the thing you do that Alice likes. I have no idea how she comes up with these things.
Well, I didn't invent them. I learned them on the internet.
Well, the internet doesn't seem that bad. Maybe we should think about getting a computer.
Can we, Daddy, please?
That was a great twist right there at the end. Because the entire time you do assume that she is the daughter because she looks the youngest. They're all dressed identically in blue. And she does often call him daddy. That really came out of nowhere. Originally I was expecting something to happen like they were coming off as being too good to be true, and maybe like they had this secret double life where they were criminals or they were like jewelry thieves or something like that. And it's like, nope, I didn't expect that at all. Jason says that scene made the age rating form hard. They kept asking if there was foul language, but they talked about weird stuff, but in the nicest gosh darned way. Sarah isn't Walter's daughter. She's his wife. So is Alice.
Well, I did not see that coming.
Me
I
neither.
only considered Sarah because, well, she seemed like such a sweet, wholesome girl. I had no idea she was married to an older man who already had a wife. I don't know what to think about that.
Alright, last couple. Becca and Todd. Tell me about the hotel.
This is where Todd said we had to stay when we came to Vegas.
We're in town for our wedding.
We actually ran into the owner of the hotel while we were checking in, and he overheard us saying we were getting married, so he upgraded us to a big suite, which was such a nice surprise.
And he was even more surprised when he asked if we wanted to be interviewed for your book. I mean, this is certainly turning out to be a memorable trip.
I would hope it'd already be memorable, but with our wedding and all.
Oh, of course. It was a poor choice of words on my part.
Tell me about yourself.
My name is Becca.
And I am Todd.
We're from New York City.
Okay. Tell me about New York City.
Oh, I mean, I love New York. We have the best sports teams, the best nightclubs, the best restaurants. It's such an incredible place to live.
Even if I didn't have to live there for work, I don't think I could ever move.
Yeah, I mean, there are just so many things you can only get in New York you can't get anywhere else. You should really visit if you haven't been before.
There's this Brony convention Todd goes to every year. I mean, even if we moved, he'd have to go back every year. No way he could miss it. It's all he talks about for a month leading up to it.
Jason says the actors playing Becca and Todd are the only two in the game who aren't already well known, but they knocked my socks off with their performance and how much work they put into it. I love these two as actors. They have some YouTube videos that are funny, but not many views. Interesting. I'll try looking up their YouTube channels later. When you say they have YouTube videos online, do you mean like they have a channel, like a YouTube channel together where they do stuff? Or do they have their own individual YouTube channels? The Brony Convention.
It's a convention for My Little Pony fans.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it sounds.
I mean, lots of adults go. Actually, it's almost entirely adults who go. Yeah, I think the TV show is super sweet, but I've only been with Todd once. They don't really like girls going. I think it kind of messes with the whole bro part of Brony.
Well, tell me about your wedding. How was that? How did that go?
I wanted to get married in a church back home, but Becca wanted to do something original. Isn't that right, dear?
Yeah, we also couldn't afford a big wedding. You know, Todd's work has been a little slow lately.
Well, I'm an actor, and all actors have dry spells. Just part of the industry. Plus, Becca has a lot of debt, so we probably shouldn't be spending too much money right now.
Right now he's actually playing Elmo in Times Square. He takes his picture with tourists all day. He's so cute in the costume.
I'm not Elmo.
Okay. Legally, he is a generic red creature, but we all know who he's supposed to be.
Actor.
I think street performer is more of an appropriate term. He's never done any sort of stage acting.
But I do have some exciting things lined up, actually. I'm going to be in an upcoming film in New York.
It's a role in an unpaid student film, but it's a great start.
It's a very promising student film. It's going to be seen by a lot of people, and the exposure is worth more than the money, believe me.
It's a film about campus safety. They say that new students are going to see it for years to come. I just wish Todd had booked a speaking part. He has the talent.
Oh, well, thank you, dear. Thank you.
Jason says there's a shared channel for Trifecta. I think that's an acting group they're both a part of, but I'm not sure. They both appear on. My favorite video with Katie, one of the 3 videos they both appear in. Oh, okay, I got you. Shared channel for Trifecta. I think it's an acting group they're both a part of, but I'm not sure that they both appear on. Your favorite video with Katie. One of the 3 videos they both appear in. Okay. Well, so that's cool. So they work together. Or they at least work at producing content together. So they're sort of, in their own way, they're sort of a couple in this game, and they're a couple in their other lives as well. That's neat. So it's not like they're just 2 random people coming together and meeting up for the first time. Yeah, you booked Katie first and asked her for recommendations for who to cast as Todd. I wanted them to have chemistry and work well together. That's really cool. I like that. Vegas.
A Las Vegas wedding was her idea. I told her we could get married anywhere that she wanted.
Vegas seemed perfect. It's affordable, and it can double as a honeymoon.
Oh, plus it has casinos. She loves those.
Oh, and it has strip clubs. Todd loves those. He actually made a list of all the clubs he wants to see before we leave.
It was just a list of places. There's one club on the list, but it's places that I want to see from the outside.
Todd grew up in a very religious household, so he can be a little embarrassed about these things. It's okay, sweetie. I've seen your list. It's perfectly normal for a man to want to see naked ladies.
Church.
Todd's family is very religious, very devout.
Oh, I'm not as devout as the rest of them.
Oh, no, you're just being modest. He's the only boyfriend I've ever had who insisted on keeping his virginity until we get married. I mean, how impressive is that?
Virginity. I think I see what's going on here.
Oh, it's not that big of a deal.
It's kind of a big deal. I've had to go over a year without it, so.
We've been together for 2 years, dear.
I checked someone off my list last year. We promised we wouldn't have to tell each other that. The baseball player.
Oh.
Aww. List.
You know that list every couple makes of people they're allowed to sleep with if they ever get the chance to without it being considered cheating?
Yeah, which isn't really fair because I don't sleep with anyone and she knows that. So.
Well, I've been trying to change that for the past 2 years.
I'm sorry, but I'm trying to get into heaven, so.
Really? I've been trying to get him into heaven for the last 2 years with no luck.
Well, aren't you supposed to be only putting famous people on your list who you don't know?
Well, I didn't know him when I made the list. I just so happened to meet him a year later.
Oh, convenient.
Besides, Todd put my sister on his list.
That was meant as a compliment alone, okay? She knows that I would never sleep with anyone besides Becca.
Yeah, my sister did not take it as a compliment, and she's still kind of mad about it.
Sister.
My little sister Rachel, she's so competitive. It's kind of annoying. So I was kind of a prodigy in middle school, so I skipped a grade, and then she skipped 2 grades, and then I graduated 5th in my class at Harvard. So she graduated 4th. It's like her only goal in life is to be just marginally better than me at everything she does.
The two of them have been at it since they were very young. Everything is a competition between them.
Yeah, competition, I rarely win. But luckily she did not go into the legal field. She took the easy route. Medicine. I'm kidding. No, if she had joined the family firm, I'm sure she would have been made partner 2 years before me, despite being 2 years younger, but it's fine.
Aww. They play their roles very well. Debt.
Yeah, I took out a lot of student loans. I would have been more than happy going to an affordable law school, but Daddy insisted I go to Harvard if I wanted to work at the family firm. So I will probably be paying that off for years. I don't know why Todd puts up with me and all my baggage.
Don't.
Jason says, since this is the second time you're playing it, I wonder if I should say something that's a spoiler at this point or not. It might make it more interesting for people who know what's coming. Well, I have mentioned that we are screening this for the second time. For some who eventually see this, it might be considered a spoiler. Your comment. But if you want, you can drop it in here. It might spoil the shock value for some, but depending on exactly what you say and how you phrase it. Excuse me. But I feel like we're not too far away from that point right now, as we're only limited to 2 options. Or you could just save it until we reach that point. It's up to you. Jason says, I'll just say this. Todd has to do some double acting here. His reactions are nuanced. So they work after you know what's happening as well as before. Dalian Rashid did a great job. Yes. Family firm.
Kennedy, Seymour, and Cartwright. Michael Kennedy's my father. Barbara Cartwright is my mother. It's not the biggest firm in New York, but we do all right.
Student film.
Oh, I'm not a student. I just responded to an ad on the internet.
He actually dropped out of high school.
I wanted to focus on my career. Yeah, I was actually working for a cell phone company at the time, and it was a great job. I was making good money, and I wanted to move up, but they downsized, and a lot of us lost our jobs.
They laid off all the sign spinners at once, which was such a shame because Todd was so talented at it. We actually met when he was sign spinning on the corner at my apartment. He caught my eye right away.
First met.
So I had just moved out of my parents' house into my parents' apartment building, and I didn't really know my way around the area. So I was running late for a meeting, and when I went outside, I saw Todd spinning his little arrow sign on the corner. So I went up to him and asked for directions, and instead of just telling me where to go, he spun his sign all impressively and pointed in the right direction.
Yeah.
That was like the cutest thing.
Oh, well. She came back after a meeting and she asked for my number, and we went on our first date the next day, and I knew she was the one after our first date.
Mm-hmm. I knew it after the third.
Oh, did you?
They do have some chemistry. What happened on the third date?
We streamed The Notebook at my place. All my past boyfriends had refused to watch it with me. Todd not
Aw.
only agreed, but he cried multiple times while watching it. I knew right then if he ever proposed to me, I'd have to say yes.
Past boyfriends.
Oh, there were a lot of them. Am I right?
They were all so full of themselves. Like, they were either rich or famous, or both rich and famous. The worst combination. That doesn't impress me.
They weren't as great as they sound, okay?
No, some were actually very cool. But I don't really talk to them anymore. Todd gets a little jealous when I do. But Todd hangs out with all of his ex-girlfriends, except Lily, of course. But, I'm not really worried about them. If he's not sleeping with me, he's definitely not sleeping with them, so.
What's up with Lily?
Oh, Lily, she was just the worst. I wasted 6 months of my life dating her, and that is all that needs to be said.
She used to physically abuse Todd. I'm so proud of him for breaking up with her. Even more for talking about it.
It's not really what she makes it sound like. She doesn't know the whole picture.
I mean, Todd could have easily defended himself. But the thing about Todd is he would never hit a woman. Ever.
Well, no real man ever would.
Especially Lily. I mean, I don't think I could hit a 95-pound elderly woman either.
Oh, this is so good. I think I kind of see what you're hinting at, Jason, where knowing what I know, I'm actually enjoying this more the second time, or seeing it the second time. Because I think knowing what we both know, it gives more context to what's being said, and perhaps to why it's being said. But we'll hold off on that point until the game actually brings it up. Jason says, I agree. Beck and Todd are better the second time for sure. Yeah. Tell me about the proposal.
Todd's proposal was the most unique one I ever had.
How many people have proposed to you before me?
You were the fourth. I told you this. Oh, the first guy was at the Eiffel Tower. Ugh, so cliche. Second guy did the whole, wedding ring at the bottom of a champagne flute at the 5-star restaurant on Valentine's Day. We've all seen it.
Yeah, these guys have no originality.
The third guy was the worst. He had the proposal up on the Jumbotron at a basketball game. Like, how was that supposed to impress me? He literally owned the basketball team. He could make it say anything he wanted. That sort of stuff, it doesn't go far with me.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just the lucky one. What's the next question?
So what was Todd's proposal?
Okay, so Todd was helping me lose weight at the time.
She asked me to help.
And, I'd asked this of other boyfriends before, and they always dismissed me. They were like, "Hun, you're perfect as you are." And I was like, I don't want you dismissing me. If something's important to me, I want my boyfriend to take it seriously,
Again,
too.
I was just trying to help. That's all I was.
Oh, he did more than that. He tracked my weight loss. He kept a log of everything I was eating. I mean, it was like having my own personal trainer at home.
Yeah, it was, she laid out everything she wanted me to do. I just did what she asked me to.
And there was like this stubborn last few pounds I just could not seem to get off no matter what. So Todd told me he would marry me if I hit my target weight. And that was all the incentive I needed. I shed those last 3 pounds stat. I lost it so fast he didn't even have time to save up for the ring.
Well, I thought I was going to have more time.
I literally just didn't eat for 4 days. It was all the motivation I needed.
Wow. The ring.
We just decided to skip the whole engagement ring thing and the wedding band thing. It's such an outdated concept. Plus, Todd thinks it's a waste of money.
Well, engagement rings are a scam. There's a great Adam Ruins Everything video about that, actually.
Yeah, plus I deal with a lot of high-profile clients at work, so if I had a ring, it would have to be huge, something that Todd couldn't afford, really. I know that sounds shallow, but, people really do judge you for the clarity and size of your diamonds, so it's best I just don't have one at all.
High-profile clients?
Our firm represents a number of well-known clientele. I'm not really at liberty to name names, but there's a few athletes and politicians who you might have heard of.
I was actually an athlete. I was the star player on my high school football team. And I would have gone pro. Everyone would know my name, but I had a knee injury, so.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at him. He would have totally made the NFL had it not been for the injury. I mean, once he kicked a 20-yard field goal in a high school game, that is extremely unheard of from what I understand. I almost went pro in gymnastics, but that didn't work out for me either.
What happened with gymnastics?
When I was very little, I trained under the famous Italian gymnastics coach, Sergio Endolini. My parents were convinced I was going to make it to the Olympics. I had the leotards
Stop.
and...
That's enough. Sergio Endolini isn't a real person, all right? We're not.
I was enjoying that story.
The only reason I said we were married is because I wanted to get a free room upgrade at the hotel.
As you can tell, he's a cheapskate.
Well, as you can tell, she is a hooker.
Okay, I'm not a hooker. I am a sex worker.
Oh, so I'm so
and we didn't
sorry.
even have sex because you were busy crying the whole time.
Not
so...
true, not true, not true.
No, it is kind of true. The only reason I'm still sitting next to this person is because I wanted to be paid for this book, so... And now, you've ruined it, so thank you.
I ruined it.
Yeah,
You're
did.
the one who made me look like a complete loser.
He kind of is.
You know what? I don't even... I'm sorry for wasting your time. Goodbye.
Can I still get paid?
So yes, that was the reveal right there. That was the twist. The last two had twists. I like that. Becca and Todd and the Goodleys. With Becca and Todd, I think what made it more appealing the second time around is because at times it seemed like they were lying just to sort of cover each other. so they would get paid for the interview, because Mr. Davenport said that they were being paid a good sum for the interview. But then it seemed like at times you were kind of having fun, especially her, where she would just say stuff to make him look bad or sound bad and make herself sort of sound like she was better than him or too good for him. And he would try to like bounce off of that as best he could. And eventually he just kind of got fed up with it and snapped. And it was kind of funny. When that first happens during your first viewing of this, you're kind of like, oh wow, that's a bit of a shocker. I didn't see that happen. But you kind of get that feeling as they're talking, like, why are they together? Like, he's a struggling actor, and she's like this big time law firm person who's been with famous people, and she has famous clients, and it seems like they're from two totally different worlds. And you're like, the meaning is kind of cute. That does make sense. But at the same time, it's like, they're very different people. And then you find out, like, the reveal, and it's like, oh, okay, it makes more sense now. But the second time you view this, and it's kind of like, at times you still feel bad for him, but you don't feel bad for him for the same things. You don't feel bad for him, like, because you feel they're kind of mismatched. You feel bad because it's like, you can tell what's going on, that you can tell that she's like dogging him every once in a while, and he's just kind of like, he doesn't want to break the illusion of what's going on, because he still wants to get paid for the interview. And so he's just kind of like trying to roll with it and trying to adapt. And eventually just, it's too much. You agree 100%, yeah. So, my review of the interviews here. The Goodlies, I enjoyed them all. I enjoyed all the interviews. The Goodlies I probably enjoyed the least. Just because, as their name states, they felt like they were too good. Like they were like beyond Leave It to Beaver. Like they were really, really like classic 1950s perfect family. And I don't know why, that like irks me. But it was nice kind of seeing like different aspects of who they are and what they enjoy, like gardening and knitting and doing all these different things for people, and they are all legitimately good things. But the twist at the end was like, that was like a shocker. And I don't think it would have been as much of a shocker if they didn't have that sort of backstory where they do all these good, charitable, wholesome things. And then you find out the twist, which in many people's viewpoint is not a wholesome thing. And you really needed that sort of background in order for the reveal to have that kind of effect on you. Jason says everyone hated the Goodlies. They were supposed to, but it really worked. No one liked them. Yeah. It's like too saccharine sweet. With Mallory, Mallory's like, of the four, she's the one you just want to hug. Like, you just feel so bad for her. Jason's people were supposed to dislike Ashley too, but Mick Rhodes has too much charisma, so she became the fan favorite. Oh, Kim Rhodes. Yeah, she was my favorite. Of the four, she is definitely my favorite. Mallory I liked. Mallory's probably my second favorite. She had a lot of... What would I say? Okay, yeah. So, yes, it was tragic about all the negative things that happened to her during her life. But I think what made her a really enjoyable character is she always put a positive spin on it, where she always had like a positive outlook. Like, this bad thing happened, but I got to do this instead. Or like, I got stranded in Vegas, but, you know, otherwise I might not have stayed in Vegas, and I got to like have a look at around the town, and it gives her like this adventurous persona. Or like how she saved up for her dream job of getting an ice cream truck, but it wasn't really an ice cream truck. It was an El Camino that she sold ice cream out of the back of. But it's like that, even though that wasn't like her ideal setup, she still tried to make it work, and she still thought she had a good life. And she goes through all of these really negative things, all these setbacks from the time she was a child all the way up until now. And it's like somehow throughout it all, either she developed a positive response to everything, perhaps as a self-defense mechanism, or she's just always held this little light inside of her where whenever any kind of darkness sort of encroached upon her life, it made her sort of flip things around and look at her circumstances in a different light. And it's almost like she's her own champion, and I really love that about her character. It's either a lot of strength, a lot of naivete, or perhaps a mix of both. I get the impression it's probably a bit more naivete than strength, but then I'm not really sure. I mean, I would say it's probably a bit of both. And she's a very, very endearing, very, very likable character. With Ashley, yeah. Ashley's, I think, is definitely the favorite. She's sort of like the... not the cynic, but she's the realist. I think that's the way I would put it. She says, I think, a lot of how people feel and a lot of how people think in their day-to-day lives. And when you actually find someone who verbalizes the way a lot of other people feel inside, the way a lot of other people think, I think they appreciate that and they enjoy that and they like that because they can see aspects of themselves in her. And another streamer friend of mine, Ratika, was in here earlier, and he's like, I really like this woman. Like, is she me? And I'm like, I think she's parts of us all. You know, I think we've all encountered those people that you meet that just won't stop talking, and they just prattle on endlessly about things that you're just not interested in. But the polite person doesn't want to say, like, look, just shut up, just stop talking, just can we move to a different topic, or can I just not talk to you anymore? Like, that's super rude. But you get the impression Ashley just doesn't care. Like, she'll just do it. And that's part of, like, what makes her, in her own way, a superhero. It's like, she doesn't really like people that much. But in a sense, that makes her, like, immune to negative social feedback. Like, she doesn't have to try to keep up some weird persona to not risk offending people. She just does whatever she wants. And I think that's really cool. And the fact that she has her own business shows that she's not chained to have to behave in any certain way. So she has a lot of very interesting outlooks. And yeah, she's definitely my favorite. I said earlier, too, that there's probably two things I would alter if I could. And one, I'm not sure if it's alterable. The second might be. The first is when you're at the beginning of the game screen, it says press A to start. I did go to new game, hit that, and it takes a while before things load up. It takes like almost a full minute. And I wasn't sure at the beginning if the game had froze or if it just took a while, and I guess it just took a while. So that's the first thing. The second thing would be that I like the characters, and depending on the options that you select as you go through, it could cut off the rest of the conversation. And like, I want to hear the rest of what they have to say. But when you get to the point where they sort of reveal the bit of information that you need to know in order to report back to Mr. Davenport, it kind of immediately shuts off all other avenues of questioning for that character. And so I don't know how that would be handled. You could maybe put like a little marker, like a dot or an arrow or something that would tell you like, hey, this is the last question. If you ask this, that's going to be it. Or maybe the questions could somehow be left unlocked, even when you get that piece of information, so you can still hear everything that they want to say. Now, I don't think that second one would work, especially in the case of Beck and Todd, because he literally walks off. But it would be cool getting to hear everything from all of the characters. Jason says, the first issue I didn't know about. We didn't test on every Xbox console. Okay. So yeah, you could always watch the stream from the beginning. On our next game, we're working on the second idea. Okay, no plans to patch this one, but we're planning it into our next game. Gotcha. Well, that's cool, though. You can learn, and further develop, and each experience gets better than the last. And this experience was a good experience. I liked it. So I'm looking forward to your next project. And assuming it is another full-motion video game, and I'm guessing that it is, we will be screening it here on Sunday Cinemas. The other one thing that I would like to have done a little bit differently here, and I feel it was like this pre-patch, but I could be wrong, is that with Mr. Davenport, after you talk to him the first time, he gives you an option. He's like, okay, like you can choose, like, tell me about Ashley, tell me about Mallory, tell me about the Goodleys. And the way and I could be wrong about this, but what I remember doing was I talked to him about Ashley, and then I spoke to Ashley and interviewed her. Then I went back, and I didn't want to tell him what she said. I didn't want to tell him that she was planning to leave Vegas. So instead, I selected, tell me about Mallory. Then he told me about Mallory. And then I questioned Mallory. I just kept bouncing back and forth between speaking to Mr. Davenport and then going back and interviewing each candidate. But after patch, I asked Mr. Davenport about Ashley. I went to interview Ashley. She gave me the piece of information I needed to report back to Mr. Davenport. And when I went back, all I could tell him was what Ashley told me. But the options for him to tell me about the other three characters were gone. So I guess you were supposed to, like, run through all of his list of having him tell you about the four people that you're interviewing and then just go down the list. Rather than do what I did before, which is tell me about Ashley. Okay, this is what Ashley said. Now tell me about Mallory. Like, that doesn't work. But that just goes to the second issue about, like, if you hit that point where you're supposed to get information, a specific piece of information, it kind of takes away all other conversation options. So, but that's kind of cool that is being taken into account for the next game, and we'll get to see how that plays out. Okay, Becca and Todd aren't on their honeymoon. They lied to get a room upgrade.
Well, that's disappointing. I guess there's no reason to consider them as potential heirs anymore.
So what are you going to do with your hotel?
Well, all four candidates have potential problems, but someone has to take over the hotel. I don't have any more potential heirs, and I've run out of time to keep searching. Now, you've spoken to all of them. Who do you recommend?
I don't remember who got the hotel in your first playthrough. No one got the hotel in my first playthrough. So for those who don't know, Jason here in the stream chat is the game's creator. So it's very cool to have a game creator in your audience. And someone who can give so much backstory on the characters and the actors playing their roles. But no, in my first playthrough, I didn't get a chance. We encountered that glitch where I couldn't leave the hotel to anyone. I had questioned everyone, and I couldn't select anybody. So this will be the first time we get to actually see an ending. Of everyone, I would want to leave it. It's really either between. Actually, it's kind of between them all, really. Though, again, the Goodleys last. And each for their own reasons. You're very interested to see who I pick? I'm probably going to go Ashley. Like, I think Ashley's would be the funniest. Like, in my imagination, Ashley would be the funniest one to leave it to, because she sounds like she's already fed up with people. She's fed up with Vegas. She just wants to leave. And I feel it would be the funniest to leave her the hotel, because she'd be like, crap. Well, now I guess I gotta stick around anymore. Like, she'd be kind of like she's the only one who I feel like wouldn't be happy about it. She would be like teed off about it, but she would accept it anyway. And I think that's part of what would be funny with the way she is. Jason asks, the Goodleys last over Becca and Todd? Yes, even over Becca and Todd. Mallory would probably be my second choice, and that's because I feel bad for everything that Mallory's gone through. But at the same time, Mr. Davenport brought it up, where he was like, well, if she only has like a few months to live, even though we kind of told him that she has like a couple of years to live, but Mallory literally told us she only has a few months to live. Mr. Davenport's like, well, she's going to live about as long as I'm going to live. So we're going to die about the same time, so she may not even, like, inherit the hotel. She may only inherit the hotel in name only, but I might even outlive her. So it's not really like she'd really be inheriting anything. And when something happens to her, then who's it going to go to? So there's that. Becca and Todd, I think, would be funny, because if you give it to them, you're literally giving the resort to two people who have no real relation, and you kind of wonder how that's going to work out. And you don't even really know who they are, because they lie the entire time about who they are, especially with Todd. Like, at least we know what Becca does, but we don't really know anything about Todd, assuming that it was all a lie with his acting and his sign spinning and everything, which I'm guessing it was. So I could see Becca shifting to sort of enjoying this opportunity and perhaps using it to get into a different industry, to get out of the industry that she's in, and perhaps that would be something that she would want to do. I mean, if she could be wealthy and sort of escape the life that she has, good for her. With Todd, again, I don't know what he would do, but it seems like regardless, he's just down on his luck. And maybe this would like shoot some enthusiasm into him, and he would get more confidence, and it'd be somewhat artificial confidence, but maybe that's where he could start and start to feel better about himself, and maybe he could kind of use that to help pick himself up. With the Goodleys, Jason says, I really wish the cheat code to see multiple endings was still active. I'm still planning to try it anyway. If it works, awesome. If it doesn't work, that's fine too. We know nothing about Todd. Yeah, we don't know anything about Todd. I just get the impression from the fact that he just took a lot of Becca's flack that I kind of sense like two things about his character. One is that perhaps he is like really down on his luck because he just wanted to fake it for the money for the interview, and he just lied to get a free room upgrade, and he hired someone to potentially make out with, but even that didn't work out. So obviously he has some issues, and perhaps this could be a nice kind of starting point. I hope it wouldn't be too overwhelming for him, but then the whole thing wouldn't be his anyway. He'd have to split the responsibilities and the income, so that kind of works out. The reason why I wouldn't leave it to the Goodleys, or I'd be the least tempted to leave it to the Goodleys, is because out of the four, it sounds like they have the best life. They have a stable home, they love where they live, back in Utah. They're very tied to their community there. And it's like, if they owned some place like this, I mean, yeah, they might actually have the skills to run it remotely. And they could maybe hire someone else to run the place, and they just kind of earn a slice of the income. But it's like, if I have to choose, and they might actually, who knows? Well, I can't say they'd be the most successful at running. I mean, Ashley might be too. But between the four, Actually, the Goodleys might be able to run it the best. They might actually do something more beneficial with it. They might open it up and make it into like having public events or turn into a soup kitchen. I don't know, but I feel like you would almost want to use this opportunity to try to like lift someone up. It's always like, getting a free lotto ticket, but knowing that you yourself can't use it. So who do you give it to? And it's like, well, you would want to sort of use it to the person who you would feel either needs it the most or could use it the most. And it's like, out of the 4, it would be Mallory. But because Mallory is herself ending so soon, you almost feel like it's a waste. Like, you could say leave it to Mallory, and Mr. Davenport might actually outlive Mallory. So it's like, it wouldn't really benefit her. So then it's like, okay, well, now you have 3 left. Well, the Goodleys have the best life already, so that almost immediately crosses them off the list. So, okay, now it's between Ashley and Becca and Todd, so who are you going to give it to? And it's like, well, there's Becca and Todd, and I think they would probably be the bigger ones to give it to, but at the same time, it's like, you don't really know how well they would be able to manage it. And so, yeah, they could get it. Maybe they would feel good about themselves or better about themselves. They could try to switch industries. They could try to learn, but it would be a learning experience, and who knows how that would work out. And for the sake of Mr. Davenport, he wants his business to go on. He wants it to succeed. He wants it to thrive. If not, he wouldn't be conducting all these interviews. So between the 4, the one who would want to give it to the most, or at least the one I would want to give it to the most, and the one that seems like it would make the most sense, would be Ashley, because she has been here for a very long time, longer than the rest. She has had intimate relations with this place because her business was here. She has business acumen because she runs her own business. She runs a magic act. And even though she doesn't really sort of want to be in Vegas anymore, I feel that she would probably still rock this place, and she could turn into something special, and she would probably stay for this place. Or who knows, she might try to run it remotely, but even if she ran it remotely, I have full faith that she could do it. So I feel like, to balance out wanting to sort of help someone out, and I'm not even sure Ashley would necessarily want to stay doing magic. I mean, maybe as a hobby, but if she could not have to do magic, where she could just not interact with anyone and just own a business and just hire a manager to do it for her and just earn money on the back end and just be able to continue to do whatever she wants, be her little social deviant self, I think she might ultimately like to do that. So that's why I would ultimately leave it to Ashley.
I'm looking for someone to take over the hotel. If she wants nothing to do with Vegas, she'll probably just sell it. And that defeats the purpose of me selecting her as an heir.
Oh, so you get like a chance to double think it. Interesting. She's earned it more than anyone else, or she wants to leave Las Vegas because she has no reason to stay. I'm sure that would change if she inherited your hotel. Interesting. We get an option here. I do think she's earned it more than anyone else. I wouldn't say she wants to leave Las Vegas because she has no reason to stay, because I feel she does have a reason to stay. The reason to stay would be to continue her magic act. It's just for some reason she doesn't want to stay here anymore, and I feel like either she didn't give us that information. Well, no, she didn't give us that information, but I feel like I don't know why she didn't give us that information, either because we just didn't get to question her to the point where she gave us that information, like, because there were still options left available when we got the needed piece of information that sort of ended our conversation with her, where we had to report back to Mr. Davenport, or perhaps that information wasn't included. So far as I'm aware, she wanted to leave Vegas, but it didn't really make sense to me why she wanted to leave Vegas. It's just like she just was sick of the town, and she just wanted to go elsewhere and try her luck elsewhere. Like, that's what it came off as. It's not that she doesn't have a reason to stay. She has a business here. She has a livelihood here. But maybe she just wants to just distance herself from the city because she's just tired of Vegas. But at the same time, I get the impression that she'd probably be tired of wherever she goes, because the problem she has isn't with Vegas. The problem she has is with people. So anywhere you go, you're going to find people. So that's always going to be her reason to dislike wherever she goes. So yeah, I wouldn't say the first part of that is true because she has no reason to stay. I'm sure that that would change if I do think that would change if she inherited the hotel, though. I don't think she would leave if she inherited the hotel. I guess I'd go more with the second option.
I hadn't thought about it that way. She might not feel a connection to this place right now, but once she becomes the owner, that may change. I'll have my lawyer put in a stipulation that if she inherits the Bellflower, she cannot sell it, just to be safe. Would you like to tell her? It only seems fair that you be the one to give her the good news.
I don't think she's gonna be happy about this. I think it's gonna be funny. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me again. I picture like I'm gonna tell her this, and she's gonna get upset and like walk out, but she's still gonna wind up running the hotel anyway. She's like, man, just when I thought I was free, just when I thought I could leave Vegas, they dragged me back in. Now I gotta stay.
No problem. You're someone I can stand talking to.
There is no book. Mr. Davenport is dying. He asked me to interview select people he was considering leaving this resort to in his will. The book was just a cover.
Okay. Did I win? Do I get the hotel?
Mr. Davenport is going to leave the hotel to you, but there's a catch. You can only inherit the place if you sign an agreement stating you'll never sell it. I hadn't thought to tell her about the stipulation. Interesting. I wonder if she'll accept it anyway. She might just say no.
Cool, I can do that.
Oh, okay. Mr. Davenport passed away a few months later. Upon inheriting his estate, Ashley immediately hired a property management company to take over operations and retired to Alaska. She has not been spotted in Las Vegas since. That's funny. She handled it more chalantly than I thought she would have. So she still left. She hired someone else to run it for her, and then they just sent her the money on the back end so she could live her life away from everyone in Alaska. That's pretty cool. Oh, epilogue?
Hey, yeah, I'm calling about the puppy? The missing puppy? I saw your flyer. Yes! I do. I found it. Now, you mentioned $100 reward. Yeah, I think you can do better than that. No, I was thinking 150. It's a really cute puppy. Well, then maybe your son can come up with an extra $50. Maybe a lemonade stand?
The end. That was funny with the little puppy thing at the end. She talked about that before. You can skip most cutscenes by holding X for 5 seconds. That was interesting. I thought maybe she haggled about the price of the puppy, like, or the price of the animal she found in a different way. Like, maybe she was like, well, you know, when I saw your flyer, I really felt moved to drive around and try to find it. I really used up a lot of money in gas, probably more than I should have. Can I get reimbursed for some of that? It's like, no, she's not even covering it up. She's just basically holding the pets for ransom. That's kind of crazy. Jason said that was flat out extortion. Yeah, it was. That's funny. She didn't even try to hide it.
Thank you for meeting with me. If this is your first visit to the Bellflower Casino Resort, I hope you're finding it a pleasant one. I've owned this place for over 30 years. Running the Bellflower has been my
it didn't
life's
work.
work.
I tried it.
Which is almost over. I have terminal cancer, and I've been fighting it for years, but my time is coming to an end. I've already come to terms with my condition, but
It was worth a
it
shot. Yeah,
leaves
it
me
was.
with a problem. I never found time to start a family, and I don't have any close friends. This hotel is all I have to leave to this world. It's my legacy, but I have no one to carry on that legacy once I'm gone. I need you to help me decide on the best person to inherit the Bellflower. I've made a list of 4 candidates, each of whom has a strong connection to this hotel. Unfortunately, I don't know any of them very well. I've invited them all here for the weekend under the guise that you want to do an interview with them for a book that you're writing about the hotel. Now, they're being paid a healthy stipend for their time, so you'll likely find them willing to answer any questions you may have. I want you to learn everything you can about them and report back to me if you discover anything relevant. Their names are Ashley, Mallory, Sarah, and the last one is a couple of newlyweds named Todd and Becca.
All right, so that has been our screening of Vegas Tales. So that was fun. It was fun to finally get to see an ending, get to see what happens with Ashley. I will probably go through this 3 more times off stream to see what the other endings are with Mallory, Sarah, and Becca and Todd. And this has been a tale that I'm happy I got to experience. And yes, I agree. I'm glad I finally got to see an ending as well. So, thank you, Jason, for being here. It was a fun time. I do have an announcement about next Sunday. So, thanks for checking the game out again. You are welcome. Thank you for creating it. It was a pleasant experience, and I look forward to your future projects. I wonder if you can give out any clue as to what your next project is going to be about. If not, I understand. But for our viewers, I have an announcement concerning next Sunday's cinemas. Next Sunday's cinemas is going to be a bit different in that it will not be a full motion video game. And there are 2 reasons for this. Reason number 1, and perhaps the most important reason, is we are literally tapped for content. We have gone through every full motion video game on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PlayStation 3. There is literally no more. We've run the gamut. There is another one coming out in a couple of weeks. It's called Who Pressed Mute on Uncle, and I don't remember the name. That's coming from Wales Interactive. So in 2 weeks, we will have new content. But for next Sunday, we're just tapped at the moment. Now, I do have a gaming PC coming in April. And once I get that, then we'll have access to a ton more content. But up until then, we don't have anything yet. So what I'm going to do is use next Sunday to try to get through a role-playing game that we've been experiencing on RPG afternoons called Rhapsody: A Musical Adventure. I feel like we're about halfway through, and I really would like to try finishing it this week, so that next Thursday, or rather in 2 Thursdays, we could try moving on to a new role-playing game that drops next week called Stranger of Paradise: Final Fantasy Origin. I've been looking forward to that game for many months now, ever since its release. I first learned about it when I was in the process of almost beating the original Final Fantasy, and so that's why I've been looking forward to it so much, because I basically played its sequel. And so yes, that is our plan for next Sunday. So in 2 Sundays, we will be returning with a full motion video game experience. So just be aware if you show up next Sunday, it will not be. Jason says the problem isn't secrecy. It's that it's so far out that every part will probably change twice before it comes out. That's just how this stuff works out. Ah, I gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you again for being here. Thank you for joining me through this adventure again. And perhaps I will see you in future streams. I look forward again to your next project, whatever that may be. And, yeah. I'll try to find someone to throw a raid over to now. Let's see who else is streaming. And got one. Okay, so we're going to visit Life of Pre. She is one of my favorite streamers. Right now she's just chatting. She's also been experiencing Elden Ring. She is an English teacher in Tokyo. And she is a very fun, bubbly personality. Jason says, thanks, I'll be around. Well, thank you, Jason. So let me go ahead and set up the raid, and then I'll make some closing announcements. And before I do that, actually, let me send some thanks. I always like to send thanks where they are due and give shout-outs. So, okay. Not too many tonight. I first want to say thank you to everyone who kept me company in stream chat for any portion of time. And that includes my streamer friend, Maniac Jamera, as well as my other streamer friend, Doratika, and thank you again to Jason for being here. So yes, Maniac Jamera was last casting Apex Legends. Jamera does like his first-person shooters, so Apex or Borderlands. He's a big fan of both series. And with Ratika is a variety streamer like myself, though he's most fond of role-playing games, and he himself is getting pretty embroiled into Elden Ring. So, also thank you to all the lurkers. I know you could be anywhere, doing just about anything, but you chose to pop into my stream at some point and hang out, and I hope I was able to entertain you for the period of time you were in here. Okay, let me set up the raid. And closing announcements. So, if you are interested in full-motion video games, then join me again in 2 Sundays for our next piece of interactive cinema. Again, we'll not be having a full-motion video game night next Sunday due to both lack of content and to wanting to really wrap up this role-playing game we've been working on. The next time I'll be streaming in general will be tomorrow, Monday, at 6 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time with Monday Marvels. We'll be playing through Rise, Son of Rome, chapters 3, 4, and 5. So that'll take us a good bit through the adventure. I think it's going to be a good time. I think the game itself is only 8 chapters long, so we'll be through most of it. We'll be over halfway. So if you want to join me for that, that'd be pretty cool. Perhaps I will see you in 2 Sundays for our next full motion video interactive adventure. Or perhaps I'll see you tomorrow evening for Rise, Son of Rome, or perhaps in the next few moments in the stream of my friend Life of Pre with some just chatting and perhaps some Elden Ring afterwards. So thank you again, everyone, for being here. I hope to see you again soon, and have a good night.